All right, folks, going to do one of those old school videos where I just kind of stand behind the camera and point at things and talk. But today I'm putting together a couple of new salt feeders because somebody wanted to buy them off of me. And I wanted to show you how you put together the salt feeders that I use out here. This is actually an assembled one. I've been using these for about 4 years. This one is, I believe, is the original one. And it's real pretty simple. You got one of these pans in here. You got this belt going around here. You got the flap over the top. On top of a board, and then you got some feet to just kind of give it some stability. Put the mineral in there, goat reaches in, gets some mineral, and goes about its day. And then the flap comes back down. This sheds rain, water, dirt off of there. These work real well. I'm real happy with them. They're real lightweight and easy to move. I didn't originally put the stakes on these, and I got away without stakes on them for about 3 years or so, 2-3 years. And then I had a Billy that decided he wanted to start fighting with them. And then the other goats realized that they could fight with it too. And I ended up having to just stake it down now. Not a big deal though. Just use a claw hammer and hammer it in, and then same claw hammer and pull it back out. It's really not a big deal. And then I got this kind of halfway constructed one here that you can see. A little bit more of how it's actually put together. So you kind of got this L bracket here. You got this plastic belt here, which I'll talk about in a second. You got this little flap of plastic up here, stitch screws, and then this flap up here, which we'll talk about. All right, so the base is just whatever scrap lumber I have around. You know, the bases look a little bit differently because it's just whatever scrap lumber I have laying around. And then you got these little L brackets. You can get these at like Home Depot or Menards. They're like less than $1. And that's all they do is just hold the plastic to the board. The plastic belt part is made out of a 55-gallon drum section. So if you take the top top third of a 55-gallon drum, bottom third of a 55-gallon drum, you'll end up with a belt in the middle. I use the top and the bottoms for waterers, so I had a bunch of belts laying around that I held on to. And you cut it down to something about like that, and then you form it into a circle. That is the right size for the pan that you want to use, and this is a 2-quart pan, so that the pan just fits right in there, and you use a couple of stitch screws to secure it together. Yeah, there's a couple little pointy bits sticking out. Those don't really bother me. If they bother you, you can take a grinder to them, grind them off. But yeah, put the belts in there, and then I'm not going to do it on camera because I only got one hand, but you know, screw the screw in there, and that holds it all together, keeps the thing from falling apart. This plastic little bar or whatever here is made from this piece right here, which is actually a piece of an IBC tote. I use those for water tanks in a couple of locations, and also for firewood storage. So I had some plastic left over, used it for a bunch of different places. This is just one of them, and that's what it looks like. It's actually thin enough you can just cut it with a scissors, a heavy duty scissors, but a scissors. And then the blue belt, by the way, is cut with blue belt, I guess, is cut with a circular saw. That's what I use anyway. What I found works best. You can use whatever you want. I don't really care. The top flap here is either baler belt, like off of a round baler, or it is conveyor belt. And you want to make sure it's wide enough to cover the whole thing, and that depends on the size of the pan that you're going to use. And you want to have ideally a little bit of extra on the edges. And then the screws that I use are stitch screws. If you don't know what those are, it's for holding 2 pieces of tin together without any kind of structure behind it. Just 2 pieces of tin, so it's called stitch. You're stitching 2 pieces of tin together. You could probably get away with using other types of similar screws, but stitch screws are really kind of more designed for what this is doing. And then just wood screws. You could probably use drywall screws, would work just fine. I think these are decking screws, actually. Got a couple different sizes of them. One thing about the construction, if you're going to take and kind of modify the idea for some reason, I would urge you to stay away from putting a lot of metal components onto it. Like, don't make the base out of metal, or you make the loop out of metal, or this little part out of metal. That mineral, or that salt mineral, gets on there, and man, these things rust. That stuff will rust really quick. As far as this one goes, like, if I had to get those screws out of there, they would probably just snap off because they're rusted that much if I tried to get them out of there. But I don't care. It's just screws. And I don't have a reason to get them out there either. But you can definitely see where, it's getting some rust on it there. So let's keep that in mind. Trying to think of anything else to cover about these. Yeah, that's about it. If you got any questions, throw them down in the comments.